December, a month of unity, of celebration, of joy, and yet despite all that, I still feel a bit hollow. Even after accepting it, even after moving forward from it, that feeling still hasn't left me, and until I die, it'll never go away. All I can do is just try to push through the hardship, the heartache, the divide between hope and despair. I will never understand your reasons for leaving us, Dad, and even if I did, I wouldn't agree with them most likely. But I do want you to know something. Despite all that you did, despite all the wrongs you committed, I still miss you.
But time moves forward. I'm still living after all, and with today being a brand new day, anything is possible. So today, I'm gonna cover a show's third season that seems to be split down the middle by its own fan base. Shit. Well guys, here we are. Last year, I covered RWBY Volume 1 as a contribution to Red Ribbon Reviewers. Last July, I covered Volume 2. And now, 5 months later, it's time for me to cover Volume 3 of Rooster Teeth's original series, RWBY. Now, like I said in my intro skit, this season seems to be pretty split down the middle when it comes to reception from its fan base. Some liked it, others hated it. Hell, even when Volume 3 was announced, a lot of fans were raising their eyebrows about it. Because as I said in my last review of RWBY, the creator of RWBY, Mounty, passed away in 2015. So when Volume 3 was announced, a lot of questions were raised. How would they do this volume without the original creator? Would the series go downhill with new writers and directors on board? Would Rooster Teeth air a trailer announcing a new entry in the RWBY saga and then revealed to be a pachinko machine? But I'm getting ahead of myself. So with Mounty's passing, co-directors Carrie Shacross and Miles Luna were promoted to the roles of director and writer and announced that the show would continue as planned. That's not the only change this volume would get. The show's tone also began a gradual transition from a mostly light-hearted tone with serious moments at points to a somewhat serious tone with a few light-hearted moments at points. So is this a change for the better? Let's find out. The story of RWBY Volume 3 revolves around the Vetus Festival, which is a festival between the four kingdoms of Remnant, where they have their best students demonstrate their skills and abilities in celebration of the peace between all four kingdoms. RWBY and her team, as well as the other teams at Beacon, enter the tournament and things seem to be normal, but underneath the surface lies a terrible plot concocted by Cinderfall and her cronies that threatens to destroy the peace between the four kingdoms. But Cinder isn't the only one with plans underneath the surface. Ozpin, Glinda, RWBY's Uncle Crow Branwen, and General Ironwood also have a plan to stop Cinder by utilizing a power that most people in the world of Remnant thought was merely a legend. But in the end, Cinder succeeds in her plan, two of RWBY's friends are killed, Blake and Weiss are separated from RWBY, and Beacon falls to the Grim. So with all hope lost, RWBY goes off with Jean's team, while the rest of our heroes attempt to rebuild. That is probably the quickest way I can describe this story because, whoa boy, the story this time around is a lot more complex than Volume 2's story. You got the Tournament of Vetus Festival, you got Cinder's plan, you got Ozpin's plan, you got the Maiden's plot, you got the backstory of Autumn, the current Full Maiden, Cinder, Mercury, and Emerald, you got the internal conflict with Pyrrha potentially becoming the next Full Maiden to stop Cinder, but at the cost of potentially not being the same person. There's a lot of shit this time around to go through. Now that's not to say Volume 2 didn't have anything real going on, because it certainly did. But in contrast to Volume 3, it's pretty small when it comes down to long-term effects on the show. With Volume 3, the main plot is brought back up again in Volume 4, a show when the new big-time villain Salem wants to get the three remaining maidens. The death of a certain character still has an effect on the show with Episode 2 of Volume 4. Now compare that to Volume 2's plot points. Did the dance ever get brought up again in Volume 3? Hell, did we find out what the conversation between Raven and Yang was? No. But just because something has a lot of plot to it, it doesn't really mean much if that plot is garbage. Thankfully, however, I think Volume 3's plot is pretty solid. I like the story of the maidens, and I feel it really helped the story when it came to the world building department. I like the flashback episode since we got to see tiny bits of characters from the current Fall Maiden, as well as how Cinder recruited Emerald and Mercury to her side. I liked how the internal conflict with Pyrrha was written, not only since it shows another side of Pyrrha, one of weakness when she's usually the strongest of her team, but also because this internal conflict feels realistic/relatable. Now yes, stuff like aura transfers don't happen in the real world, but if I was given an offer that could change my life forever if I accepted, but at the potential cost of losing something big, like, I don't know, never seeing my friends or family again, I would also be scared, conflicted, confused, and also under a lot of pressure from it, since it feels like a lot of pressure was thrust onto my shoulders, and I wouldn't know how to handle it, especially if it happens all at once. And with all this pressure thrust on her, this causes Pyrrha to make a big mistake during one of her fights, causing an emotional breakdown from her after the fact. Damn. But even after all that, she's not out of the woods at all. In fact, it gets worse for her. She doesn't get the Fall Maiden power since Cinder comes in and steals it during the transfer process, and eventually has to fight Cinder at the top of the communications tower, which, you know what? I'm not even going to spoil what happens. Look, if I didn't like Pyrrha by this point in the volume, I certainly would feel something towards this character by Volume 3, because honestly, I think the writers did a very good job displaying her internal conflict with the audience and making us care about her. But while on the topic of characters, I feel like when it comes to this category, a lot of the characters were handled pretty well in this volume. I like Cinder a lot more in this volume than, say, Volume 2, because she proved to be a very intelligent and powerful threat to our heroes, even to the point of succeeding in her plans. Goddamn. I like the backstory given to Emerald and Mercury, as well as getting to see their abilities in action. Hell, I even thought the newer characters were okay. Sure, not all of them have a lot of depth to them, such as most of the students from the other academies, but characters like Winter and Crow did start to grow on me after a while, and I did like their moments where they got to spend time with their family members. As for Team RWBY, well, in all honesty, not a lot has changed when it comes to these characters in terms of development. Hell, I think one of the only moments where we see character development from Weiss and RWBY is in the finale, and that's when Weiss joins up with RWBY to reach the freaking communications tower. And I say that's development because this is Weiss we're talking about, the same girl who didn't like RWBY in the beginning. Now, in Volume 3, she is risking her skin to help her friend. That is some really good character development. However, Yang doesn't get much in terms of character development, and while she does sustain a big injury, it's probably not going to mean much until Volume 4, so she doesn't really get much in terms of new abilities either. In all honesty, if you didn't like Yang in Volumes 1 or 2, you probably won't like her in Volume 3 either. And as for Blake, the same thing happens to her as well. Not much development goes her way, and by the end, she leaves her friends behind. At least with Weiss, she left because of her father essentially dragging her away. Blake literally abandoned her friends once they landed in a safe zone. What the hell? Much like Yang, I have hopes that Volume 4 will do something with her, but for now, she was probably my least favorite of the four in terms of this volume, and of course, least favorite waifu. As for the animation, this was another big step up in comparison to Volume 2. The backgrounds look a lot crisper, the effects look better, the fight scenes have better choreography and are a lot more fluent. This looks really damn good to look at. Now yes, the animation could still be seen as a turn-off to some people, but I think that the animation in this volume is still a lot better than the animation seen in Volume 2. Speaking of improvements, the music is once again very well done. A lot of the tracks are very fitting given the tone of the volume, they have a great variety of instruments and beats, and are overall very catchy. Voice work is still very good, and we even have some big-name voice actors this time around. Vic Mignogna voices Crow, Yuri Lowenthal was the new voice for Mercury, hell, Jen Taylor is known for playing Princess Peach at one point, plays the role as Salem, who appears at the end of the series.
Sorry, fanbase, but your appearance is in another castle.
But I think it's time I wrap it up here. Overall, I consider RWBY Volume 3 to be the best of the series thus far. It has a much deeper story than before, and has the serious tone well, and manages to do a great job fixing the issues Volume 2 had going for it. So good job to the team behind RWBY Volume 3, and I am excited to see what you bring to the table for Volume 4. So that concludes this review. Thank you all for watching, have a happy holidays, and take... Who is this?
Did you think it would end that easily, David?
Seraph.
That's right. You may have defeated my Jirachi in Palkia, but now you must deal with my next challenge.
Forget it. I have a vacation in 10 days and I need to pack.
Funny, I didn't ask you to do this. I'm telling you to do this. Oh, and you're not doing this alone. You'll have to defend yourself against two people who hated this.
I'm not doing it.
It's a link to David's phone. Wait, why is it sending me his call?
You love her, don't you? You love your friends. How would you feel about them after I dismembered them bit by bit? And I forced you to watch. Because that is what I will do to them. I will kill them. Just like I did your father.
Fine. What is the challenge?
Volume 3's finale. Oh, and because of that earlier comment, I want you to come to my location to review it. You have the tech, track my number to the location, and meet me there. Come alone.
Did you get that, sir?
Yes, I did, David. And it's recorded.
Excellent.
Bring the girl along, just in case. I will also bring someone to the meeting. Let's just say he's an asset to us.
Yes, sir.